In this episode, I have a fun conversation with the charismatic Jason Tobin. Jason started his acting career at a young age and shot to stardom in Justin Lin's breakout film, Better Luck Tomorrow. Jason shares his audition story and character development for Young Jun on HBO Max's Warrior. We also delve into storylines, action, and the importance of Asian representation on screen. Jason was born in Hong Kong and has lived in the UK, US, and Argentina. I enjoyed talking to him about his multicultural background and how this has influenced his career. As a fan, it was such an honor to speak with Jason, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. Hello, Jason. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast today.
I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, it's my honor. So, a little bit of a fangirl thing coming out now. You've been on my radar since 2002's Better Luck Tomorrow, when I was
Okay.
actually working in Hollywood at the time.
Nice.
Trying to work.
Yeah.
And our film community went crazy because, of course, I was a part of a lot of the Asian American groups, and we were just like, it was such a revelatory and breakthrough film, as I'm sure you've heard a million times. But it was so incredible. What was it like to kind of be a part of that, or did you realize it was going to be such an important milestone film?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. And although I have heard it many times from people that the film was really had a profound effect on them, I never get tired of it. I call Better Luck Tomorrow the gift that keeps on giving, because it really has given me something. Well, let me backtrack. I always wanted to be an actor. My dream was always to be a great actor, to be, and to act in movies and TV shows, and to go to Hollywood. And but I always wanted to be part of something important. You know what I mean? And I felt like, um, as an Asian American film and being an actor in America, like, I was part of this movement that was breaking new ground. We were, in the forefront, fighting this fight, fighting this good fight. And so to me, to this day, when Asian Americans, or even if they're not Asian American, but when they come up to me and they tell me like how important this film was to them, it means so much to me, because the money I made on that film is long gone. You know what I mean? It's not about that. It's
Yeah.
about what we left behind, what we kicked off. And to answer your question about, did I know whether we were doing something special? I did. I remember, at the time I was auditioning a lot, but I was getting a little burned out, to be honest, um, on the roles that were available, and also just going out and auditioning and not having a lot of success. And all of a sudden, when I got the script for this movie, Better Luck Tomorrow, I was like, wow, you mean I'm playing a multi-dimensional person, who's not just there because they're Asian, and sort of superfluous, and I think it was maybe not even a week into shooting, we had wrapped for the day, and we all the actors and the cast and crew had like congregated at one of the producers' house, which was sort of our impromptu production office. And we're hanging out afterwards, and we're outside. Some of us are having a cigarette. I don't smoke anymore. Only fake ones
Right.
on
On
Warrior. And we're outside having a cigarette, and I just remember saying to the guys, Perry, Roger, and Sung, and I'm saying, like, you know what, this feels special. This is gonna be something. And we all felt it. We all felt it. We knew something was brewing. And man, the response when the film finally came out was absolutely incredible. And to my point earlier about it being the gift that keeps on giving, I've subsequently worked with Justin Lin. So Better Luck Tomorrow, I worked with him on Finishing the Game, Fast and the Furious, uh, and then Fast 9, and then
Fast
Warrior. So I've
9.
worked like five projects with him, and he's one of these really important collaborations in my life. I heard a phrase before. That phrase, compounding interest.
Mhm.
Um, they someone had used this phrase, compounding relationship, and
Yeah.
that's what, like, um, I had worked with him, and I before Warrior, I hadn't spoken to Justin in years.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I get a call, out of the blue, and saying, "Hey, could you audition for this project?" I'm like, "Yes, of course." And now our relationship has spanned 20 years. Isn't that
Right.
crazy?
Yeah. It's crazy. But
Crazy,
I mean,
crazy.
clearly it's like you're awesome to work with because that's what you
Thank
find
you.
in the industry. It's like you want to keep working with people that have the good work ethic and everything. But yeah,
Mm,
it's like you build this relationship. And even if you don't speak
mm.
for a long time, going through
Yeah,
a project like Better Luck Tomorrow, I can imagine
yeah,
creates some sort of bond, and
yeah.
in the same fast forward to your work on Warrior. But
Oh,
I'm
thank
really
you.
interested as well because I read, of course, that you were born and raised in Hong Kong, spent some time
Mm,
in the
yeah.
UK, and you
Hmm.
didn't realize acting was going to be like could be a profession, even though it's something you wanted to do. And then you made the
Yeah.
leap to move to LA.
Yeah.
I just find that to be so daunting because it's just a
Yeah.
completely different place, but also there is a Hong Kong film market. So I was
Yeah.
curious why you kind of made that choice.
So yeah, my dad's English, he's British,
Hmm.
and my mother is Chinese from Hong Kong. And I was living in Hong Kong at the time. And when I was like 18, I was applying for, universities, and all my friends were, going to go off to, Australia, UK, America, Canada to study. And everyone for the most part had, were off to go do, pretty traditional subjects, and so I had applied because, just following my friends of what other people were doing. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, well, I guess I'm gonna apply for law school, which is a total joke because I would never have cut it in law school for like for 5 minutes, but that's what I applied for. And I didn't actually know at the time. This is how naive I was, that you could be an actor. I didn't understand yet. I wasn't an adult yet. I didn't understand that one could pursue such a career. I
Hmm.
had no idea how one became an actor.
Yeah.
And so but I had done some acting in school and in plays. I'd gotten the acting bug from a very early age. I went to boarding school in England when I was 9. I
Oh,
was
okay.
extremely homesick. I'm this young little Asian boy who had, like, he lived in a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops my whole life up to that point.
Hmm.
And when I got to the UK at 9, I was freezing, bundled up, not used
Yes.
to that. I was extremely homesick because, obviously my parents were abroad. And in the first week of boarding school, I we had a drama class, and I instantly fell in love with drama. And it was then that, even if I couldn't verbalize it, I knew that it was just something I wanted to do. I enjoyed
Hmm.
it so much, and it gave me a voice to kind of like to. I found it always difficult to express myself, but then through acting, I felt like, oh, I could. This is something I
Hmm.
could express myself in. So anyway, fast forward to when I was 18, I was living in Hong Kong, and like I said, I was applying to universities. Um, um, I actually had done very poorly in my exams to get into university, so I didn't get
Okay.
into any of the schools that I wanted to go to. Because my final year of high school, I got a girlfriend,
Oh,
and
well, you know.
and and it was weird because I'd done pretty well up until that last year, and then I totally flunked my last year, and she got straight A's. So I was like, "How did you study? We were together the whole time." So she was cheating behind me.
Yes.
So,
She had all the answers, didn't
she had
share.
all the answers, exactly. And so I didn't get into any of the law schools I wanted to go to, but I got into a couple other places. But I decided to, like, maybe take a little, like, not a gap year, but I decided to get like a job here in Hong Kong locally,
Hmm.
just working in the gym and getting a bit of experience and, making some money before I left. And one day my dad walked in, and he showed me this little ad in a, like, one of those, I don't know what you call it in the States, but just a tiny little classified ad. And it was like,
Hmm.
acting class in Hong Kong. And it was taught by this American gentleman. His name was Louis Roth. And he was this New York American guy who had moved to Hong Kong and had been working in all these Hong Kong movies. he was in like every movie back then. Anytime they
Yeah.
needed a white guy
Yes. He's
in Hong Kong
token
movie,
white
he
guy.
was the guy. So he played
The
judges,
officer.
cops, bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in all of them. And so he was teaching this acting class in Hong Kong, and I started going to it. And I think pretty shortly I met a woman there who had just emigrated to Hong Kong with her husband, and she was from New York. And she started telling me about acting classes in New York and in LA. And she told me that you could go to these classes without passing an exam or having good grades. And I'm like,
Sign me up.
I was I was so confused. I'm like, because I'd been like applying to universities and not
Right.
getting into the
For
ones I
law
wanted to go
school,
to.
no less.
Right. For law school, for a subject I didn't even want to study. And here was someone telling me that I could go and study my passion and no one would like, like give me like I
Fail
could just
you.
walk in there, like I couldn't fail. I'm like, I was just blown away. And just shows how naive you are when you're 18. And it was probably because of that that I just packed my bag and went to LA
Okay.
just because I thought that's Hollywood, that's where I'll go. So
Right.
there was never a really consideration of like I could have gone to the UK and studied acting in a
Mhm.
university, I guess, a drama school, or I could have stayed in Hong Kong and pursued a career here. But
Yeah.
at the time, it was like that's where Hollywood is,
I see.
so that's where I'm gonna go, And little did I know how long of a road it would be after that. But I think it's one of those things where sometimes it's better not to know. You know,
Mhm.
you just kind of just dive in, and I've always sort of maintained that philosophy as an actor and as a performer. Just say yes, dive in, and do it. And yeah, so that's how
Oh
I
my
ended up in
gosh.
LA.
Well, it's worked
Yeah,
well for you
yeah,
thus far, so I would say keep that
yeah.
up.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, thank
I
you.
I love the image that you just shared of the little kid in Hong Kong with the flip flops,
Yeah,
because having spent some time there, I worked there for like a month, and really was fortunate to kind of be absorbed in the culture. I have family there, and it is so true because like you just see these kids walking around in their flip flops,
yeah,
and it's just such a
yeah.
Hong Kong thing. Um,
Right.
and then for you, when did you come back from boarding school back to Hong Kong?
So I went to boarding school from 9 to 13,
Okay.
and yeah, so those are pretty important years for me. Uh, yeah, yeah, it was 4 years that at first were really tough. I was homesick a lot, and but after 4 years, you get used to it, and I started to really enjoy it, and just I had my friends there, and we
Mhm.
did a lot of stuff together, and it kind of gave me this that independence, so that when I came to when I turned 18 and I was going to go to America, it was the fear. There wasn't a fear of going, what I mean? Like I'd
Right.
already lived away from home,
Exactly.
and so that definitely um that definitely helped. And it also is weird because boarding school was so formative for me, because like I said, that's when I fell in love with drama. And I
Mhm.
remember, like, I was, I can't remember, maybe I was like 10 or 11 or something, and there was a school play. We were putting on a school play, and I remember being really bummed out that I didn't get to get any roles in it, right? And I remember it was a British farce. I forget the name of the farce, but it was a British comedy, British farce, classic, and I didn't get a role, and I was pretty bummed out. And then one of the other students, one of my, the other pupils, um, said something to me like, "Oh, well, of course, Jason, of course you didn't get a part. I mean, you're Chinese, right?
Yeah.
Being that the play is about it's this classic old British farce,
Mhm.
so like, why would I have a role in it?" And I remember thinking like, "Oh yeah, yeah, he's right. Yeah, okay." And
Mhm.
then I went to bed that night, and I was just lying there thinking and thinking. And I was like, "But we're fucking 10 years old. We're we're 10 years old playing adults in a play.
Right. So
So
what
if
does
we
it
as
matter?
kids can play adults, why can't I as Chinese play
The
this
character.
person?"
Yeah.
Like it was just like, ah.
Mhm.
Uh, anyway, and To me, this was like a really formative thing, because this has then become like a theme of my life as an
Of
actor,
course.
right? What I can and can't play, and I'm either not Chinese, or too Chinese, or not
Hmm.
Chinese enough, or I'm not
Hmm.
English, or I'm too English, or I'm too Western, or I'm not American. So everyone loves to tell me who I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and so, this farce, this play that I was in, or wasn't in, I should say. Fast forward to, now, and I never would have dreamed in my entire life that I would be playing a cowboy on an American TV show, you know?
Yes.
And there I was, episode 5 of season 1 of Warrior,
Yes.
like with a cowboy hat
Hmm.
in a saloon, shooting it up,
Yep. Yep.
like
Literally a
as an
Western homage
American,
episode.
West homage, and riding off into the sunrise,
Yeah.
it's been a journey, and I've never really gotten rid of that chip on my shoulder about,
Hmm.
what I can and can't play. It's weird. It's like, it doesn't matter how long you've been in this business, how many times you try and prove yourself. People always want to put you in these like categories and boxes,
Of
and tell you
course.
what you
Of
can and
course.
can't play. And it's not that I'm not trying to make the point that I can play any role. The best actors in the world are not going to play every role. If you think Daniel Day-Lewis is the best actor in the world, I would agree with you. I mean, there's many other great actors, but he can't play every role, right?
Hmm.
He's not going to be
Right.
right for every role. So I'm
Yeah.
not making that point, but I find that people do try and like limit me, and every actor,
Hmm.
I think like there's like this healthy chip on my shoulder that kind of still fuels the fire for me to keep on fighting, and proving people wrong. And but yeah, boarding school, the trauma is still there. I'm still like,
Well,
come on.
it's such a, because like here in the US, some people go to boarding school, but it's very
Yeah,
common actually in Hong Kong. I know a lot of people go
yeah,
off to boarding school, and it's
that's
just to
right.
send your kids off when they're so young seems kind of
Yeah,
foreign here. But it's kind of
yes,
funny because even though I'm American, my dad was like, oh, we should send, Mimi to China to train for a few years. And I was like
yeah,
9 or 10. And my mom's like, what? No way. We're not sending her to China, But
yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
his mind, I think it's the same thing that we're culturally, it's more
Hmm.
accepted. Like they're going to go off and
Yes.
learn, but it's clearly served you well because, like you said, you weren't afraid to leave at 18. It makes
Yeah.
complete sense. And you've been able to take those
Mm,
experiences and really learn from them. And I think that's
yeah.
what's really key and resonates with me here is that you're
Mm,
constantly learning and evolving, but you keep those lessons very close to your heart. And I think
yeah. Yeah.
that's probably, obviously led to a lot of the success you have. But I
Thank
I
you.
love I just love the imagery that you painted there, and I'm sure there's some trauma with boarding school because it's not this like,
Eh,
Harry Potter picture where you're just in this like wizardly land.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I definitely got picked on, like
Hmm.
I was the only Chinese kid in
Okay.
that school. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely got picked on, got bullied, but like I learned a lot from it. One thing that I always like, I kind of fostered this mentality, and this spirit of like, you can beat me up, you can hold me down, you can pin me down, you can put me in a headlock, but I will not give up. I will
Hmm.
not give up, and so, that's the way I had to survive. And then eventually you win people over, and before you know it, it was totally fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you
Absolutely.
definitely, there was definitely a period of time where, definitely got, yeah. I mean, the kids are awful. Kids are amazing, but they can be terrible and
Of
awful.
course, of course. But
Exactly.
clearly, like you said, fast forward today, it's like we're still fighting a lot of those battles, right? So fast forward to
Right.
Hollywood of today. Of course,
Yeah.
we talk about Better Luck Tomorrow. I actually did um a presentation to Lockheed,
Mm,
which is this big company here. It's an engineering government
yeah.
thing. And it was about Asian heritage, or Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I
Cool.
went through and they wanted to know about Asians in popular media. And honestly,
Oh,
Better Luck Tomorrow was one of my slides. And I was like, Paul, how
nice.
many people have seen this? You need to go watch this. And because to me, it was such a breakthrough, I
Yeah.
think it was still early in terms of the rest of Hollywood catching up, like
Yes.
what we call
Yes.
the Black Panther effect or the Crazy Rich Asians effect. That's kind of
Yes.
finally like really
Yeah. Yes.
wedging. And then of course with Warrior, right? I mean, Warrior is
Yes.
so fascinating because it doesn't just show one facet of a quote unquote Asian character. You're just
Yes.
getting the whole gamut, the good, the
Yeah.
bad, the everything. And I think
Right.
that's what's really special about it. And I think what's important here is, of course, representation. And, we
Mm.
look at this last year that the
Mm.
pandemic has literally affected the world and
Yeah.
how there's been so many negative effects, especially with Asians.
Yeah.
And I just curious, first of all, are you and your
Yeah.
family, everybody safe, everyone's well? Like how has been the year been
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah. So thankfully, my family is all well and safe, and so touch wood. Thank whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is you believe in. I Yeah, we're so grateful and for all that. It's been really distressing though. I mean, this, it's strange because like I remember I was filming season 2 of Warrior, and I'm a kid from Hong Kong. I had a dream to become an actor, and I was in Cape Town in this magnificent apartment that HBO and Cinemax had rented for me. And my 3 beautiful daughters are playing, and my wife's there, and we have friends over. And I'm shooting this amazing TV show with an incredible cast, amazing scripts, amazing choreography. And I've got a fantastic role. And I turned to my wife and I said, I have achieved all my dreams. Like, literally, I've
Oh,
achieved them all. Like, this is it. This is what
yeah.
I've always wanted. This is what, and I'm living it. And then in the next breath, I'd be like, what shit is around the corner? Like, this is too good.
Yeah, it's
Something's
like
gonna
it's something's
happen.
happening. It's too eerie.
Like, yeah, like it's like, wait a second. And then and little did I know that, like, a year later there'd be a global pandemic,
Yeah,
and then this whole other, business of, Asians being scapegoated across the world. And it's not just America,
of
it's
course.
all over the place,
Yeah.
and it's been truly, troubling. And the only, I mean, I've done so much soul searching in this time, but I would say that, like, the one thing that Warrior has really provided is some kind of creative release. Even though we shot it before all this happened, everything we talked about that was in those stories speaks volumes about what is happening today. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, Chinese people, Asians back then, they were scapegoated and treated like crap and
Hmm.
murdered and had deprived of their liberty and their dignity, and were accused of spreading diseases. And like, that rhetoric hasn't changed,
Right.
and so thank goodness I have this show. On a very selfish note, that I have this show, because it's helping me kind of like process my thoughts and feelings about everything that's going on. And more importantly, I know that it has resonated so deeply with viewers. And in the time and during this time, I don't feel like I have the words, or I'm not eloquent enough to like speak about a lot of these things, but at least our work does, you know?
Hmm.
And that's why, going back to what we said about earlier, like, I feel like I can express myself better through my acting than I can with 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 what I say, and so, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. Um and in a weird way, because of what happened,
Hmm.
that's part of the reason, part of the chemistry why we came back again for season 3 and
Yes. Yeah, I was
season
going to ask you
possibly
about that. I
longer.
mean,
Right.
yeah, I was going to say,
So
obviously it was deserving
yeah.
for Warrior 3 to be,
Yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, fans wanted it. It was amazing. I think there
Yeah.
was just that weird dynamic of studio stuff, right? And
Right, right.
clearly it needed to come back, but then we see all of this and the fans
Yeah.
take to the social and the
Yeah.
pressure
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
sometimes needed to knock down the doors of these studios saying,
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
if all you care about is the dollar or the whatever, like look what's happening and then look at the optics of this. Like this is a
Yeah.
show that does so much
Mhm.
positive for so many people. So I was going
Right.
to ask if you felt like, the rise of all of this really actually
Absolutely.
helped push that over the edge.
Absolutely. It's hard to know what necessarily was that what pushed it off, but it was a confluence of things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, fans speaking up and creating what do you call it? Change.org
Petitions and yes.
petitions and memes and writing campaigns and
Yeah.
ads, and that absolutely made a difference. And so, and also behind the scenes too, like, our producers and writers and Shannon and Justin and Jonathan and Brad and all these people did not stop pushing for it.
Yeah,
I
of
think this is
course.
the one thing that fans don't know, is that behind the scenes it was never dead. It was someone was always pushing, pushing,
Yeah.
pushing, pushing. And 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 a show like this deserves nothing less.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a great show. It
Oh,
really, like,
so great.
speaks, it's so good. I know I'm biased, but, like, it's great. It's so good. And I personally, I'm gonna admit, I was really, for lack of a better description, I was pretty butthurt when
Yeah.
it looked like it wasn't gonna go through. I was like, "What do you mean?" We
Yeah.
we all just worked our asses off.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone on that show worked their asses off, and we all left everything on the field. No one held back. Everyone gave it their all.
Yeah.
And to when they were like, "Oh, it's not going to go through," I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Mm-hmm.
This was
Yeah, it's
because
shocking.
it was shocking because it during season 2, before we knew, about the, for the listeners that don't know what was going on, basically there was this corporate reshuffling, right? And um, AT&T took over Time Warner, and anyway, there was basically a reshuffling of Cinemax and HBO, and it looked like Cinemax was on the chopping block, and so was all of its shows, and that meant us. But prior to that, before the merger had happened, it looked like we were almost like guaranteed, 6
Right.
seasons.
Yeah.
It was so game on, and anyone you talk to was like, "Oh yeah, we're going, we're going, we're going." It wasn't until the last minute that people were like, "Oh, Cinemax is no longer, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to happen." So anyway, I think, like, we righted it wrong, and HBO Max, they saw the writing on the wall,
Yeah.
and they figured it out, and then they looked at all the Asian hate stuff and
Yeah.
and and the climate, and they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, no, this is the right thing to do.
This is the right thing to do. And
This is the
yes.
right thing to do."
And
Yeah.
also a solid show. It's not just, oh, there's
And
a bunch
no,
of
it's a great,
Asians in this show. We don't want to look bad. I
right.
mean, it's a freaking awesome show. And from
Absolutely.
acting to writing to action. And
Hmm.
of course, I'm really entrenched in the action. And that's why Brett and I
Yeah.
had such a great conversation, and
Oh man,
being a
awesome.
lifelong martial artist. So I'm just, it's so exciting that it is coming back. But
Yeah.
what you kind of mentioned earlier with the history and how important, like, the lessons and
Hmm.
just getting those facets of the historical fiction, like, even though it's
Hmm.
fiction, there's
Yeah.
historical timelines and things in there that
Yes.
we do need to learn about. And actually,
Right.
if you're in Florida, I'm literally currently helping write a bill with Congress to include Asian American history in our studies here
Wow.
in the education,
Wow.
because it
Yeah.
is lacking, right? And
Yeah.
because of this, we're repeating the
Right.
historical, um,
Right.
things in history we shouldn't be repeating, right? Because we
Right.
didn't learn from the first time. So I feel like these
Yeah.
things are so important, and shows like this are a huge, huge influence in
Totally.
society, so
Yeah.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
100%. But
Absolutely.
I want to talk about Young Jun,
Mm.
because, like I
Sure.
said earlier, listeners know I had Perry on, actually right before the Atlanta shooting. So it was really interesting because we
Mm.
talked about a lot
Oh
about
wow.
activism as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
like, 2 weeks later, a week later, it was kind of crazy. But he is just the sweetest. And I loved having this conversation with him. But it's awesome
Yeah.
because now I've had Father June and now Young June on
Yes.
the show. And
Yes. Yes.
you just do a remarkable job of bringing him to life,
Oh
and
my goodness.
not just showing the comedic side, but the complexities of the character. And how do you relate to him personally as a
Mm.
character? And, like, it's just so clear. You, like, nailed it. Like, you just have him down
Oh,
so
thank you.
well. So I'm just,
Mm.
and it was from, like, right out of the gate. It wasn't like you watch a show and you're like,
Mm.
oh, he's really coming into the character now. Like, I turned to my husband, I'm like, Jason's nailing this right away. I'm like, this guy's, like, on it. So it's really cool to see.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your kind words. It's interesting that you say that I nailed it right away because because I actually auditioned for Assam first,
Yes, yeah.
right? Because basically every actor, if
Mhm.
you're Asian, like they all you get auditioned for that one first, right?
Right.
And I remember auditioning for Assam and thinking like, yeah, it'd be cool to play Assam, but I kind of felt like I wasn't right for him, or that there
Mhm.
would definitely be someone more right for that role. And of course, Andrew is brilliant as Assam.
Yes, yes.
Um, but after that audition, I had this feeling like, you know what? I bet you that there's gonna be another role in this show that I'd be right for. And and then of course I didn't hear from them at all. I didn't hear back from them at all. And I then went to Hawaii for my sister's wedding, and I just totally forgot about the project and moved
Yeah.
on. Like as
Yes,
an
you
actor,
have to. You
you
have to
ju-
move on.
you just move on, right? And then several months later, I get a call from casting office, and they said, and they're kind of, I could sense it was like a bit frantic, and they're like, hey, can you audition for another role? I'm like, yeah, of course, I'll be down. And and so they sent me the sides, the script
Mhm.
for Young Jun,
Yeah.
and but I was given very specific notes, and the notes were, I need to play Young Jun chill. Don't go crazy. Don't go overboard. Don't be too big and broad. I'm like,
Really?
okay, okay.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, okay, okay. And then I hear this from Justin. He calls me up and gives me some notes, essentially the same. And then Jonathan Chopper, the showrunner, he called me up and gave me the same notes. So I could tell they were like, the fact that they took the time to call me
Right.
meant that they were, they were interested already,
Yes, every showrunner
but
calling you.
right, so but I still, obviously they're not going to just give me the role. That I have to like, I have to, nail it, right? I have to
Right.
do a good job. So I took all their notes and I read the script and I was like, wait a second, really? Play him chill? I'm like, okay. And so the scene in episode 3 of season 1 when
Uh-huh.
Assam comes back from prison
Okay.
and I'm welcoming him back, and
Yes,
we're in
yes.
our toys, and I'm
With
on
the
the
drinks, yeah.
bar, you drinking,
Toasting.
yeah, sounds blah blah, like all this stuff. I in my audition I played it super chill, like just leaning back in my chair, like I'm like Marlon Brando in The Godfather or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Very
And
cool.
very cool. And I send it in, and I'm like, I just don't feel good about it. Like
Mhm.
I said the words well, I acted it
Right,
well, but
right,
like that was not the character that I envisioned. But being the professional that I am, I was like, okay, fine,
right.
I'll do what they tell me to do. Felt wrong, and I went home. I did not feel good about it, and felt kind of dejected afterwards. I was like thinking like, ugh, what am I doing? Like I don't know what I'm doing. Like I've been an actor for so long. I'm like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But whatever. And then and then Jonathan Chopper calls me like an hour later. He's like, no, 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 no. This is all, no, no, no. We need to see the energy of this character. We need to see the. I'm like, yes,
Yeah,
yes, of course you
take
do.
my stop
Yes,
holding me back.
stop holding me back. Exactly. And and so he gives me another opportunity to read. And so and then this time I thought, okay, I'm going to take all their notes and I'm going to throw it all away.
Yeah.
And going back to what we'd spoken about earlier, which is I'd always followed this philosophy as that I'd heard Bruce Lee talk about, which was to honestly express yourself, right? And I thought to myself, if I'm gonna play Young Jun, if I have another shot at this audition, like a one last shot now, then I better do it in the way that I enjoy it, that it resonates with me.
Mhm.
I have to, I don't have to please anybody else. I've got to enjoy it, in my own body. And so, I just went for it. I think I did like one or two takes.
Yeah.
I even threw in some improv because I all of a sudden the physicality came in, the way he
Mhm.
stood. I don't walk
Yeah.
around like that.
You don't
But
walk
Young
down the
June
street
does.
like you're
I
the
know.
the head of the
Yeah,
songs.
yeah. If I did
The
that
hot
now, I'm
boy.
like that guy. I would look like such an a-hole. But 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 now, so the physicality, I could feel him in my body, and I
Yeah.
just kind of like, just took it away, and then and riffed on that. And And for me, it was the physicality. There's something that we talk about in acting, right? Like I think a lot of um, there are a lot of acting truths and like rules of thumb, but
Mm-hmm.
that that are good, but they can also hold you back. And one of the things that I hear all the time in acting classes, it's in the eyes. It's in the eyes. They always say it's in the eyes,
Right.
and I don't agree with that at all. Yes, if your eyes don't look believable, then of course you're not going to fool anybody. But you need to be in character from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. That's why I love to watch actors walk. Like in TV and film, sometimes we don't even get to see characters walk because I want to see how they walk.
Mm-hmm.
What's their how do they physicalize this person? And for me, Young Jun, because I was only given like the first script or two, and just the sides. I don't know the rest of the script. I don't know the
Right.
rest of the season. But I instinctually knew that, like, okay, where this physicality for this character was. And so anyway, I realized that because right after I sent that audition in, I booked the job within like like a couple of hours. We were
They're
talking
like,
about
oh yes,
contracts
thank
already.
goodness he got.
Thank God, thank God.
Well, they gave you the
And
notes, and and that's where sometimes getting too many notes can mess with the character,
one
and it,
hundred
yeah, too
percent,
many notes. Like, kind of
one,
let the actors do their thing first,
yeah,
then
yes,
you know.
yes,
I think they got in the head, right, in your head. So.
exactly. Well, I mean, the worst place to be as an actor is in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Because that means that you're thinking the thoughts of the actor and the thoughts of everyone else that's been giving you
Right,
information.
versus
But actually,
being the
when you're in the
character.
scene in the moment, you should be thinking only what your character is thinking about.
Right,
That's it.
right.
I mean, maybe hitting your mark or something, but like basically, you should be only thinking about
Yeah.
the thoughts of your character. And so what I took from that whole thing was that a lot of the other performers that had come in to read had probably read Young June and played all the crazy side of him,
Right.
and he is. The guy is a larger than life character, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
big and he's bold. He's the life of the party. Um, and we know people like that in real life, right? We know people that are larger than life. Um, and so I guess many of the other actors had come in and brought this the crazy side of him, but they didn't ground him, and so that was where the challenge was,
Mm-hmm.
like to really like let loose with complete abandonment and being fearless, but also then in the moments where you have to like be still and vulnerable and just there in that moment, then that's what this role offers. This is the kind of opportunity this character offers, and for me, that was it's just an incredible role. I get to do everything as Young Jun. Like you said, comedy,
Mm-hmm.
psychopathy, sociopathy, to being the brother in arms to the to like I'm funny one minute, I'm vicious the next, I'm
Yes.
a loyal brother, and then I'm a spoiled son. I'm a I
Mm-hmm.
it's just, and then I get to fall in love. I mean,
Oh
like
yes, you fall
it's
in love
just
a
such.
lot.
I do, I do. Yes, every night, at least a few times.
Right, right.
Um, such an enjoyable role.
Yeah.
And going back to one question I get asked a lot is, how close is am I to Young Jun?
Right.
And with every role that I play, it's kind of like I describe it like an equalizer. Like when you're looking at your hi-fi or whatever your sound system, and you're like you kind of tweak it. It's like there are things that are like me. Okay, great, then that's fine. If things that aren't like me, okay, well I need to tune that side up a bit more, and I have to spend a little bit more time in my imagination.
Mhm.
Um, and surely I am not Young Jun in real life, because then I would not be alive right now. I don't think I'd be married with kids and have any kind of like well, whatever. But sure, like I understand him. I get him, and I think there's one line in episode 5 in the Western,
Mhm.
which is called "The Blood and the Shit" in season 1. Young Jun says, I'm a Chinaman who's never been to China. Um, I was born in San Francisco, but I'm sure I ain't no American, you know. And I said that earlier to you. That's my life.
Mhm.
I'm not Chinese enough, or I'm too Chinese. I'm not English, or I'm too English, like not American, or I am American. So I get how he feels, and I
Yeah.
get like that. Like I said, going back to what I said earlier, the chip on the shoulder. I understand where he's coming from,
Hmm.
and you know what? The bottom line is like it's so well written.
Yeah.
He's so well written. You can't be a great actor if it ain't written on the page. You know, there's another myth in acting, which is like, oh, great actors can make the phone book sound good. No, they can't. Not for long. Not for long anyway. You know,
Right,
I'm
right.
sorry. I
No,
do
you
not
have
want
to
to
have the
listen.
substance. Yeah.
You gotta have something to work with. You know,
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean,
and
you've
yeah,
yeah, and you've brought up the
mm,
Western a few times, which so many
yeah,
people have told me that's like their favorite episode because
yeah,
it just didn't even matter. That could be a short film, that could
yeah,
be a one-off. And
yeah,
clearly there was so much there. And for your character in particular, there was like the
yes,
range was really
yes,
intense. Was that
yes.
kind of one of your favorites to film?
Yeah. Oh, it's so much fun. And we filmed that episode. So normally we film the season chronologically,
Hmm.
but the standalone episodes like that one, that's filmed at the end. Because
Okay.
that way we shoot 1 through 4 and then 6 through
Hmm.
10, and then all the actors that don't appear in 5 can go home. And
Right, right,
so
right.
whoever's left, and so it's really fun to like kind of like be the last ones at the end, and
Yes, yes.
and then just kind of film a movie, you know?
Hmm.
It was like filming a movie, and
Yeah.
we got that vibe, and great fun.
Yeah. Great episode.
Yeah, great episode.
And speaking of earlier, you talked about physicality in the character. I mean, I
Yeah,
can't not talk to you without mentioning, after speaking with Brett so extensively on the stunts
yes,
on the set and the action and the martial arts and the training, which I've told,
yes,
he invited me to come out, so that's it. I'm showing up to the training sessions, which are
yes,
phenomenal.
yes,
So
yes,
talk to me about
please.
the training of the martial arts, and
Mm.
because this is where a lot of my listeners are martial artists as well. But of course,
Oh,
you have your
awesome.
weapon and you've got, your
Yes,
physicality. And tell me about
yes,
the training. I know you're a martial artist also, so I'd
yes.
love to hear more.
Okay, well, okay, so let me backtrack because this is I hope it's interesting enough for your
Of
listeners.
course.
So actually, I am a martial artist in the sense that I have a deep passion for martial arts, and ever since I was a young kid, alongside acting, martial arts was a great passion of mine. But by the time I got Warrior, I was a lot older, and I had basically taken a hiatus from, maybe not even a hiatus. I had just stopped doing martial arts for a long time, probably a good
Yeah.
decade. And life had taken over. I just, got married, had kids and work, and just life took a different, just went down a different path. And it almost felt like when I would train martial arts, or when I'd want to, like I would feel guilty because it would be taking time from other things like putting,
Right.
bread on the table. Um, but then one of the greatest gifts, I mean, so many gifts. This warrior's given me so much, and one of its greatest gifts is that it gave me permission to fall in love with martial arts again.
Yeah.
It gave me permission. Now it's my job to
Right.
train. you know, and so interestingly enough, when I got the job, no one had asked me about my martial arts background.
Hmm.
I was I auditioned purely on the script and for my acting, and I got the job on that. And then after I got the job and doing the negotiations and things were going well, I was thinking like, oh, I need to start training because I had dad bod. I was like dad bod, I hadn't trained in a long time. Um, and I gave JT Jonathan Chopper a call and I said, hey, what's the deal? Like, I feel like I want to train for this. This is a Bruce Lee.
Yeah, there's
This is
going to be
Bruce Lee's
some action.
legacy. Yeah, action. I better like start training. And like, what's the story about training? He says, oh, you can train with a stunt team as much as you want or as little as you want. I was like, huh, okay. So I guess he meant that like, if that wasn't my thing or if I had no background in it, that not to worry because
Yeah,
Brett
they'll
and the guys would
double
take,
and they'll take it. Yeah.
it's Hollywood, it's magic, right?
Right.
In my head, I'm like, there is no fucking way I'm not training for a Bruce Lee. Like, I was just chomping at the bit,
Yes,
and
yes.
so I was super excited, to go to, for this new chapter. And so I land in Cape Town, and and of course, my hair was kind of bushy because I like to show up on set with longer hair so that they
So
have
they
more to
can
work with and
do,
we can
yeah,
do
very
stuff
considerate of you.
like trying to grow out some facial hair. We get there and the first thing they're like, oh, we we thought might give Assam a pompadour, but the producer said that's more of a Young Jun thing. Would you be into that? And I'm like, I would. I would be very. So they cut my hair, and I was like, "Oh, looks so cool." And I was like, "Yes, perfect." And then I go to wardrobe, and they're like, "Oh, we're with the hop way." They showed me all the other tongs, and then
Yeah,
they
you
said the hop
guys
way
get
in
the
this suit,
cool
and I was
slick.
like, "Oh man, this is sick! You're gonna give me a tailor-made suit?" Like it just kept getting better and
Right.
better. And then we, after that, I go to the stunt tent. I meet Brett and all the stunt guys, and everyone's super cool and super lovely. I'm feeling a bit nervous because like, oh, I haven't done this in a while.
Right.
And Brett's like, hey, so because in the script there's no mention of Young Jun's weapons, right?
Oh, okay.
That's Brett's idea.
That's all Brett.
That then that became
Mhm.
now it's in the script.
Yes,
Now when it
yes.
says Young Jun pulls out his knives, like
Dag
it's there,
yeah.
but in episode 1 there's none of that, right? And so then Brett, I meet Brett and all the guys, and Brett's like, so we had this idea that Young Jun would have 2 knives, and I was just like, oh, mind blown. Like it just like every step of the way, this character just got better and better and
Right,
better. I'm
right.
like, oh my goodness. And then Brett and Yang is my stunt double and
Mhm.
the guy that teaches me my choreo. He's an amazing martial artist. Wushu background.
Yeah.
He's an incredible martial artist. And they showed me some previs of him fighting with 2 knives, and I was just like, I was getting dizzy. I was like, oh my goodness, like someone would pinch me. This is so cool.
Yeah.
And what I love about the way Brett works and the way all the guys work is that, and this is totally you know down my alley, which is we're a team, and
Mhm.
every day in the stunt tent, anyone and everyone is invited to come train to the group training sessions,
Mhm.
right? And if you're an actor that does zero fighting throughout the whole series, you are just as welcome as anybody else, right?
Right.
Everyone, and even if you have spouses or friends from out of town, or anyone else wants to come join, we all train together and we build this camaraderie there, right? And then after we train as a group, then we as actors split off with our team, or with our the stunt guys, stunt girls who
Yeah.
are fighting in our scenes, and then we work specifically on the stuff that we need to work on, and the choreo, etc. And it's just great team spirit, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
and I think
100%.
that's really important because I won't mention any names or any
Right.
other shows, but it's not always like that. You'd be surprised
Oh, yeah.
that when a lead actor becomes the lead of a project that's a martial arts themed show or a movie and they don't want to train, you're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Don't you want to be good at this? But I guess not everyone's like that. So
Right. Yeah. No,
um
100%. I told Brett the same thing because, I'm like a baby in terms of having film work and stuff. But I was like, I never had that experience. Like, what is this like
yeah,
amazing training, as a
yeah,
group and everyone
yeah,
together and the
yeah, yeah,
inclusivity? And I was just like,
yeah.
that is very, very rare. But it clearly makes a difference in, you could see the cast and how family like everybody is,
Yes,
and it's
absolutely.
so seamless, and I feel like it makes such a huge difference. But so how sore
Yeah.
were you the first week or so?
Oh, I was pretty sore. I was pretty sore. I was pretty sore. Luckily I as soon as I got the job, I was like, I started hit the gym and started to like stretch and like, throw some kicks and stuff. I'm like, all right, here we go. But nevertheless, like, this is the thing that's great about film and TV and stuff is like, it doesn't matter that it took me 3 weeks longer to learn my choreo than it took Andrew to learn his. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's like 'cause in the end we all it's all you see is what's on film. But
Right, right,
I,
right.
I'm being I'm obviously like kidding, but like it definitely like what I thank God Brett gave me tons of time to learn my choreography
Yeah.
because I just worked on a film called Fistful of Vengeance with
Hmm.
Iko Weiss, and like he literally, they go, oh, do this, we're gonna do this, and he learns his choreo in 5 minutes. He sees it once and he does it. That's not me. That's not me. Takes me a little bit longer. Although I will say that by season 2, I was a lot sharper, and actually, even, I mean, you can, if you really look closely, you can see my body change from the beginning of season 1 to the end of season 1.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's quite
Yeah,
funny.
100%. Well,
And
I've
then,
seen
yeah,
some
yeah,
images of you where you like did all your transformations and you took your health into
yes,
your own hands. And I mean,
yes,
it's
that's right.
phenomenal, like
Yeah,
understanding what dedication that takes and how much
yeah.
discipline, it is not
Thank
easy.
you.
For sure. It is not easy.
No, it's not. It's not. But surrounded by these guys are awesome. Like, okay, I got,
There's a little
I
bit of
gotta look
like,
good.
peer
Yeah,
pressure.
friendly competition, and
Yes. Well, you
and I
also
got that.
have people like Joe Taslim on the show, who's like obviously a martial artist, and you've got good
Yes,
peers to help push you in a
yes,
positive
yeah,
way. So
totally.
it definitely
Yeah,
makes it fun, I'm sure.
totally. And Joe is just incredible. That guy
Hmm.
is incredible. He's a
Yes.
phenomenal martial artist, uh, a wonderful human being, just an awesome, nice, good guy, and he's a great actor.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
like um,
Yeah.
like he is a really good actor. My goodness, my goodness.
So on the
So
show, you're kind of like a little bit of, you play a lot of the comedy in the lines
yeah.
and stuff. On set, are you also like the jokester, the comedy guy, or who's the comedic person on
Oh,
set? Who's the
that's 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 a good question. I do like to have fun.
Yes.
Um, Not at the expense of, not being professional. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, of
But I
course.
do like to have fun, and particularly like to have fun, especially when the scenes are heavy and deep,
Hmm.
and like,
Hmm.
I need that levity between takes, to kind of like catch my breath and then go
Right,
back into it. I'm not one of these actors like, oh, this is a deep and heavy scene, so I need to stay deep and heavy all day long.
right.
I
You
do
know,
want to
Daniel
maintain a little
Day-Lewis
bit.
it.
Yes, I to a degree, I don't fully let go,
Right.
but I need to exhale and take a breath, and so definitely having good banter on set is important to me. But I get along with everybody. Like our
Yeah.
cast gets along so well. So Andrew and I, definitely between takes we like to make have a few laughs and stuff, and um but everyone on that set is pretty good fun, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it seems so.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
seems so. And
yeah,
I've been
yeah,
very
yeah,
fortunate to have been able to talk to so many people
yeah,
that's worked on the show. So I know we're coming up
yeah.
on time, but I have a few more questions.
Yes,
One, of course,
sure, sure,
is
shoot.
Fast and the Furious. I mean, how does it
Yeah,
feel to be a part of such an iconic and huge franchise? I mean, that's such a
incredible.
large film scale.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to be in Tokyo Drift way back
Yes.
when, 15 years ago. It was a Justin
I
Lin
can't
project.
believe that was 15 years ago, by the way.
I know,
I was like,
crazy.
wasn't that
Time
just
just
like 4 years ago?
I
I'm
know.
four.
It just
I'm five Fast and Furiouses
yeah,
behind.
yeah. And I guess this is one of the reasons why Justin and I hadn't talked in years, because like he was just so busy making all these films.
Yeah.
And I really, I have my character Earl in the Fast franchise he's this endearing character, but I never thought after Tokyo Drift that I would be back in the franchise. I just
Yeah.
didn't think he was.
Like a
I guess maybe not.
recurring.
Yeah, yeah. I just didn't think it was going to happen. It just didn't seem, like something that would happen. And so, fast forward to the end of Warrior season 2, and Justin called me up, congratulated me on season 2 and stuff, and then he just quickly wrote, "Oh, and by the way, I'm working hard to get you into F9." I'm like, "Huh? Okay, all right, okay." And thankfully, I got to spend a week in London shooting at Leavesden Studios with the whole crew, cast and crew, and I'm sitting there, and we're filming the final scene of the movie where all the action, the plot is done, and
Hmm.
now the family sits around the table having a
Yeah.
barbecue, and in the backyard, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at Vin Diesel, and I look at Michelle Rodriguez, I look at Sun Kang, Jordana Brewster, Tyrese, Lucas Black, Shad, Natalie Emmanuel, and I'm just going around the table looking at everyone, and I'm thinking, how the fuck did I get here? Like like just one of those moments of like my life, man. I have
Surreal.
like
Yeah.
it's surreal, totally surreal. And it was such a pleasure to, obviously with COVID, it got pushed a year and
Mhm.
then it came out finally in this year. And we've all had such a tough year, and this this pandemic's hit everyone in the world so hard, and to just I'm not saying this is like some big huge thing, but for me, and to see other people just in a cinema enjoying a movie, just having fun, letting go, and it was such a pleasure. It was the
Yeah.
first movie I saw, like, when everything was back open. So, and to be part of it was incredible, and in many ways, like I almost enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Tokyo Drift. Like
Mhm.
because I could appreciate what I have now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really feel grateful. I know people hashtag grateful for everything, but like I genuinely
Yeah.
deeply feel so lucky and grateful for all of these things, and to get to work with Justin and work with all these guys again, it's super cool. And you never know. They say that they're gonna wrap it up now with Fast 10 and 11. Um, but I think like Marvel, they're gonna start a whole new saga. Once
Right.
they got this saga, they're gonna start another one. And who knows? Maybe there'll be like a Tokyo Drift,
Yeah. Yeah. I
plot
mean,
line.
that
Who knows?
franchise is
Yeah.
ongoing. I think it's like, it's just one of those things that if the fans
Yeah.
continue to support it, it's kind of
Yes.
hard to let it go. It's like the 007s, right? Like it just
Yeah.
keeps
Yeah.
going. So,
Just keeps going.
oh my gosh.
Exactly.
So how old are your kids?
So I have my eldest is 7.
Okay.
Her name's Charlie, my eldest daughter, and I have 2 other daughters. They're twins, and they're
Oh,
5 years old. 5 years old. Yeah.
okay. So are they not
Yeah.
really watching a lot of your work yet?
So actually, maybe there are other parents that would disagree with me, but I
Okay.
do show them my work.
Okay.
Maybe not the sex scenes, because
Right,
like
right.
I don't know how to explain that yet to them,
Right.
But the fight scenes I do, because I explain to
Okay,
them,
yeah. It's action.
it's because they've seen me. They've seen me in wardrobe and with
Yes.
covered in blood. They've seen me on set. They visited, the Warrior set. So it's fake. It's not real, and so they
Right.
know. Um, and they don't often want to watch it, you know but once in a while one of my kids will ask me about it, and or if they see me or whatever, then they'll ask. So I don't hide it from them.
Right.
I just always make sure that they understand it's not real. We're
Mhm.
actors. That's actually that's if someone's I'm trying to
'Cause
kill someone with
they
someone
know
else,
everybody, right?
they know everybody,
Yes.
and they'll go, "That's Uncle so and
Uncle
so.
so
That's
and so.
Auntie so and
Auntie.
so." And then I'll show them a
Yeah.
picture of us smiling with our
Right,
throats cut and
look. Yes,
and I think
yes.
in a weird way, it's kind of helped because like my kids now have like this kind of sick sense of humor and art. They draw like dark stuff. I'm like,
Yeah, there's like,
okay,
"Oh, look, daddy, it's you without your head." That's normal,
yeah,
right?
exactly, yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, oh,
I think kids surprise us because we underestimate them and their
yeah,
ability for comprehension, and
yeah,
so it's always interesting because I teach children, and people are always surprised by what they say, but I'm like, we really
yeah,
shouldn't be, because
yeah,
honestly they're very receptive and they learn
yeah,
so quickly. But I just thought
yeah.
that'd be a lot of fun. So now you got to go do some sort of like Disney film for them so they can go,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
daddy's in this
exactly.
one.
Yeah, yeah,
Since it's
exactly.
very. Now, I read in one of your bios you were
Mm.
in the Heavenly Kings, and I have a little story for that because
Oh,
I actually, of course, saw that. That was the year I was filming a TV show in Hong Kong, and I was made to
oh,
watch it because I was going to interview Daniel Wu, and that was his
no
directorial
way.
debut.
Yes,
And
yes,
Daniel and I have like a little backstory because he did wushu in SoCal, and
yes,
we
yes.
have some mutual friends and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I finally got to talk to him about it. But I really enjoyed that film, and when I saw that your name was in the credits, I was like, wait, I need to go back and see it. I haven't had a chance, but
Okay,
that
yeah,
was kind of cool that you're
yes,
in that, and not many people
yes.
in the States probably have heard of it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I'm like very surprised that you brought that up,
Yes.
because it was like basically a little cameo. Daniel and I go way back.
I'm sure.
He's a great friend of mine, and you know, uh, when I first came back to Hong Kong, having worked and lived in the States, being an actor there, he had known some of my films, Better Luck
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow being one of them. And so when we got here, we talked, and I knew of his films, and so we became fast friends. And when it came to his directorial debut, he asked me to be in it. I'm like, of course, and I had a
Yeah.
great time. It was a pretty funny scene.
Yes.
And but you're the first person I've ever
I'm
been
so
interviewed
happy.
by who's brought that movie up. So that's cool. That's
I'm
cool.
so
Sometimes I
happy.
forget. Yeah.
Sometimes you forget about,
Cool.
right? Because it's like
I'd
this
forgotten I was in it.
blip in
Yeah.
time, right? Like a blip in time. I
Yeah.
mean, and I
Totally.
just thought the premise of it was so fascinating because I didn't
Yeah.
really keep up with the Hong Kong, pop culture, the culture and
Right.
the entertainment over
Right.
there. So I didn't know he was
Right.
in like a boy band or whatever, any of
Yes.
that stuff.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
But I really loved the film and his like kind of the genius behind like
Yes.
the commitment actually.
Yes.
So it was
Exactly.
wild that when I was looking up because I'm trying to be a good, interviewer and do my
Ah.
diligence. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
the Heavenly Kings. I can talk to him about that. And that'll
Amazing.
be something a little different. And
Totally.
speaking of Hong Kong, to kind of wrap up, because
Yes. Yeah.
I know that you've lived everywhere and are in
Yes.
many places. And another thing I heard you talk about that was really interesting is because my
Yeah.
mom is Chinese Jamaican, my dad is like straight from
Oh.
China, and very Hong Kong, and I'm American,
Yeah.
but so I'll slip into patois with my Jamaican family, and I
Oh.
noticed that you had said that you kind of go back and forth depending on who you're speaking with because
Yes.
you have that Hong Kong English, which is
Yes.
different than British
Yes.
English, and then you even lived
Yes.
in Argentina. I'd love for you to
Oh,
share a little bit
wow.
about
You
that
did do your
culture.
homework.
Oh man.
Oh, yeah. So, I grew up in Hong Kong, and so here we frequently, if you go, yeah, if my kids speak English and Cantonese,
Hmm.
and especially if you're in that community or that subculture, whatever you call it, um, I'll often use Cantonese words, and we all do use Cantonese
Yes.
words in English and vice versa, right?
Hmm.
Cantonese is, as spoken in Hong Kong, there's a lot of English words,
Yes,
clearly,
very Chinglish.
and Chinglish, exactly,
Yeah.
and vice versa. Like, so, I speak English, but I'll often use Cantonese words. But then
Yes.
what's funny about it too is that we'll we'll use English grammar to change the word. Like, for example, in Chinese, we don't conjugate, right? Like,
Hmm.
I go, I went, like, in Cantonese and Chinese, we don't conjugate.
Right.
Uh, but we'll conjugate when we're using Chinglish, like,
Right.
like, I'm yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we'll use a Cantonese word, but we'll totally,
Yes, you'll
yeah,
ing
conjugate it,
it or something.
ing
Yes.
it,
Yes. Yeah.
and use slang that way. And so
Hmm.
sometimes I'll forget like who I'm talking to. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, obviously
You can
they're not going to
totally
understand
Chinglish
that.
with me, by the way.
Okay, good, awesome, perfect.
Good.
um,
That's funny.
and then like obviously in England, or when I speak to my dad, I sound a lot more English. But then
Yeah.
having lived in America and having being an actor, like when I speak to American friends, then I sound a lot more American.
Right.
And and none of those accents they're all genuine. It's just
Exactly.
about
Exactly.
it's just who I'm with, what I'm
Hmm.
it's um and it's funny because like Andrew Koji, he's as English as they
Yeah.
come. Like his accent is so on set I'm like, mate, you need to like just keep your American accent between takes because like you're confusing me.
I
you
love
know,
it. I love it. I would
you
love it if
know.
there were some takes where you guys were full British accent and wait,
I know.
we're in the wrong era, we're in
Yeah,
the wrong
yeah, yeah.
language dialect.
Exactly,
That's so
exactly.
funny. But I
Yeah,
totally resonate with that. And I found that
yeah,
really
yeah,
fascinating because I think
yeah,
that just kind of shows that again, breaking the stereotype
yeah.
because you look Chinese and then you're able to
Hmm.
speak in all these different tones and
Yeah,
things. And it's one of
yeah,
those things I always find fun, like dialect and,
yeah.
and language. So,
It is so fun.
yeah. So I don't
Mm,
want to take up too much more of your time. So
mm,
what's next on the horizon? I know that you've done some directing and writing
yes.
and
Mm,
producing of your own. And
yes.
is there something you're specifically working on other than, outside projects and of course Warrior 3?
So Warrior 3 next year. I'm supposed to shoot a film in the UK called Enter the Dragons, and it's a comedy. Uh, it's kind of like the Full Monty,
Okay.
but about a group of women in the north of England during the 70s who want to learn martial arts, and I teach them it. But the
Ah,
comedy lies in the fact that they think I know martial arts because I'm Asian, but I'm actually a total fraud. And it's going to be directed by Marjan Satrapi, and she directed Persepolis, fantastic writer director.
Okay.
And I'm really excited to do that. But COVID has kind of postponed things, so just trying to figure out the schedule for that.
Yeah.
And that should happen right before Warrior. I just wrapped a film for Netflix called Fistful of Vengeance, which will be out in December. Stars Iko Uwais and Louis Tan. And then it's so interesting. I just did an Audible series.
Oh.
So it's a radio play, and I have never done a radio play before, but Audible did a 10-part Audible series, and that'll be out. It's called Zoetrope, and it should be out later this year. So I'm these days I'm just I'm just open to all kinds of things,
And which accent do we get to hear in this audiobook?
Zoetrope is very English, very English. Yeah, absolutely English, very British. And then writing wise, I wrote a script that Andrew Koji and I are both keen to do, and we're just trying to figure out when and how that might happen. So
excellent.
Can't say too much yet because it's still fairly early. The script's
of course
at the first draft, so we'll see.
Awesome.
He's one of those guys that he's a brother in arms for me.
Yeah, 100%. And that shows on screen as well. And anything I've seen behind the scenes stuff, it's clear you all are a family unit. So this was such a pleasure, and hopefully you'll come back and talk to me again as we get more projects, and we'll dive into other subjects and everything like that. But
and you'll visit us for
I'm
3,
there.
Right?
Brett thinks I told him, I said, you made the biggest mistake by inviting me, because I am the person that shows up. And I'm like, I could teach a kung fu class. That's cool.
And I take first dibs. You're going to be Hop Wei, okay?
Got it. Oh yeah, I want the cool outfit. I want the cool outfit.
You're Hop Wei. You're Hop Wei.
Yes. All right, Jason Tobin, everybody. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.